Now, hello guys. Today I'll be interviewing Ron Balicki. How are you doing, Ron?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Just an honor to actually meet you because I saw one of your video and it helped me to do my martial arts and kung fu. Could you introduce to yourself to the audience, please?
I'm Ron Balicki, martial artist. I train in Filipino martial arts, Jeet Kune, Silat, Thai boxing, shoot wrestling, a few other things.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I would like to say, what make you interested in kung fu and or in martial arts?
Oh God, I mean, when I was a boy, the whole Bruce Lee craze. I think uh, I just I liked it. I mean, everything about martial arts that I had seen that was coming up, it was just new back then. You got to understand now. There are schools almost on every corner. When I was a kid, there was nothing. I'm 54 years old now, and back then, you'd be hard pressed to find one school. So, with the whole advent of Bruce Lee, I just got addicted. I sought it out and figured out where to go, and just stuck with it ever since.
Thank you so much. Why did you write Jeet Kune, the principle of complete fighter?
Uh, it's really funny. Everybody has a book out. I mean, not everybody, but I mean everybody in my circle, and I kind of resisted it for a while. But I had some questions that I thought I had answers to that I hadn't seen in a book, so I figured I would write it. And I did really well with the book. The publisher asked me, "Do you want to do another one?" Because we were doing so well. And at the time I had said no because I thought I got out everything I wanted to say, and I did. I didn't want to just put something out for the sake of having a book out. So I had left it at that. And it's funny because now lately I'm getting ready. I'm thinking about doing another book because I've got something else to say. So I just kind of didn't. I didn't want to put out stuff that just for the sake of having a book out. I wanted to have something that might be poignant that somebody might be able to chew on and digest and a different point of view.
Right. What can we get out of the book if the viewer or listener would take out of it if they choose to buy the book?
One of the things that I think I talk about is it's more conceptual. Obviously, when you see it, it's not just Jeet Kune Do techniques. What I went after is what I feel is the concept, and the one thing with Jeet Kune Do that I feel that wasn't said for that book is that I think most systems, most arts look at what they excel in and try to like polish that. I think for the way, at least the way that I'm taught through Sifu Dan and Inosanto, is you look for the frailty in you, or you look for something that's not polished or a thing you don't feel so comfortable with, and you try to excel at that and bring that up to a level of understanding and I guess just being sufficient at it.
Right. Thank you so much. How did when you speak bring up Dan Anisanto, how did you met him
Oh,
through
how did I meet him?
yeah.
I. It's funny when I was a kid, I was a Bruce Lee nut, like I've already stated. I grew up in Chicago. He was in California, and I just every time excuse me, it's morning. I'm still every time that I've read anything about Bruce Lee, I've always seen this man Inosanto next to him, and so I just kept going, well, he passed, he's gone. Where could I learn this at? So I ended up figuring out where the Inosanto Academy was, and I called it up. And I was lucky enough to speak to him briefly, and it's pretty hard to get this man on the phone now. And he told me that he does travel and he does teach. So he was coming into Chicago, and he told me where he was going to be. I ended up going there. I ended up joining the school that he went to, and he would come in and he would teach. And I just started to find out that he taught in certain neighboring states, and I would run to Michigan or Indiana or Iowa or Ohio or wherever he was at, and I would go do a weekend seminar with him. And I ended up getting a lot of time in. You'd be surprised. Like you think about this, the average person who goes to a martial art class might go 1 or 2 times a week for an hour to 2 hours, so that's anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a week. I was probably hitting an Inosanto seminar once or twice a month. And he would teach for 8 hours each day then. And, I got to know him. He started to like me, and I started to get a lot of extra private time with him just working out. And it got to the point where I would let him know, hey, I'm going to be in this state. And he's great. And then we'd train. I mean, there were times when we were hanging out in his hotel room working out all night, and we're like, Jesus, we better go get some rest. We got a seminar in a couple hours. So I got a lot of time in with this man. And I did this for years and years and years. I ended up becoming a deputy sheriff. And when I was on the sheriff's department, I would work a lot of overtime just to be able to have those hours. And I wouldn't take the pay, I would take the time off. So I was taking a lot of time off and just either shooting out to California or meeting him on seminar wherever he was, and just getting as much time in martial art training as I could with him.
Right. Thank you so much for that. As I listen to your story, how can a or martial artist or a kung fu person can sustain himself for a long period of time in practicing? Like, I remember back in the day of me practicing martial arts or kung fu, I couldn't sustain it. I would get burned out. How would we be able to keep it for like our passion for or dedicated training for a long time?
For me, well, there was a couple different ways I could answer this. For one, there's burnout, like you said, or there's injury that prevent a lot of people from doing it. And as far as burnout, I try to vary my workouts. I'll get something and I'll drill it, and work it, and then I'll drift away from it a little bit, and I'll try to go into some other area that will interest me, and then eventually come back to that other area. I found that I'm on about a 3-year cycle between everything I do, meaning I'll get into one heavy thing. Not that I don't touch the other stuff at all, but I'll get into one heavy thing and I'll really work it. And I start to drift into another area, into another area, into another area until I go full circle and I get back to that one area. And, every time I look at that area and you think you know everything about it, it's funny when you walk away from something, I'm sure you've seen it, but you look at something with new eyes again, you're like, oh my God, there it is. And that'll interest me again. And then the other area I find that people train and they get injured, and so they leave what they do. And we're all going to get injured. This isn't ballet. It's you're taking damage, and you just got to train smart. When I was ring fighting, I trained with a lot of guys and like, go harder, come on. In the training, and they're always injured the day of the fight. So what I try to do is not that I wouldn't go hard, but I tried to train smart to where I could have longevity in this. And I have my aches and pains today, but I still, I've managed to be able to recoup and keep going. And then when I am injured, I mean, I've had a broken limbs at time. I broke a leg, and it's funny. My foot was, my shin was broken, so I'd bend the knee, and I'd put it on like a weight bench. I'd glove up, and I would be standing on one foot, the other knee would be resting on the weight bench, and I would just pivot around it and spar people. They'd have to kind of stay in with me, but I got my time and grade in with it. I was still working it. Or I'd have them hold focus for minutes for me while I was doing that. There's always a way. And, I've had students who have, MS and stuff like that, and they could barely walk. We'd prop them against the wall or put them on the ground, and we'd work what they could do. There's no reason to stop. I mean, everybody has a handicap. My joke is even Tiger Woods has a handicap. It's like there's always something, and you could always take the easy way out. But if you really, really want something, you're going to stick with it. You're going to do it. So,
Right. Thank you so much for that. I was thinking about, there's how I noticed there's because I think that as you are wiser, as you age, because I was watching one of your video, like a short clip, and you were talking about age, but you get more wisdom, right? You see different life differently, right? And a lot of younger folks, I'm more like an open-minded type of guy. Because have you ever heard of like self-help, personal development stuff like
sure.
that, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so I have seen a lot of people, right, always batch on other system, and I'm curious, why is that? Like, why can't we accept like every system is unique, but why is it like we think that it's our like let's say we practice a certain way and we think like this a certain way. Why is it like that?
Wait, I'm not sure if I understand the question. Could you rephrase it again?
So my question is why is it that we hate on other system, but why can't we be more open minded to other system,
Oh,
right?
okay. I think I got the gist of it. You know, it's like basketball or football. Like we seen the Super Bowl yesterday, right? You're going to have one team rooting for the other. It depends on your demographics, where you're brought up, what you're introduced to. You know, it's all prejudice and bias after a while. And that's, again, the beauty of someone like, Dan Inosanto is he, his whole view, and I've really tried to adopt that, is, I don't want to be just a big fish in a little pond. I'd rather look at what everybody else is doing. You look for like I said, it goes back to my original first answer that you asked me is I look for the weakness in me. And if I just stuck, let's say I just stuck with what Bruce Lee himself did, and I stick with Jeet Kune and just that, I think today you would be taken out pretty simple. And it's not to say that Bruce Lee wasn't super efficient in what he did. It's just things have evolved. Picture if he had lived. You think he would have stopped growing? Oh, this is all I got, and we're going to stay there. He continued to grow. And how do you grow? Is by looking at new things. Picture if the Model A Ford or the Model T never progressed, and we're still driving that car with the steering wheel up here, and no air conditioning and no power windows and just an open cabin in it, and a rumble seat in the back if we're lucky, and picture going across country with your family. And today, if we'd never progressed, everything progresses. I mean, think of where airplanes have gone in the last 50 years, just 50 years, and it's been around longer than that. I always used to listen to my grandparents, and they said, God, we went from the horse and buggy age to the rocket age. And that's by looking at other ideas and accepting other systems. I live in California. Everybody surfs here. Okay. Think about old time surfing. A lot of people who did it were big, bulky guys. Part of the reason they had to carry 100-pound block of wood, and that's what surfboards weighed back then, into the water to go surf. But then came companies like Boeing and Rocketdyne out here in California, and they started messing with all these new polymers and foams and resins and fiberglass and carbon fiber, and all of a sudden now we got surfboards that probably weighed 20 pounds, if that. It's just things evolve, and if you just stay with your system, you're not going to evolve. You'll see something, it's great, and I'm not saying that you should give up your system and do others. There's a lot in Jeet Kune I still don't fully understand, but I know right now if I got in a ring with some really, really good jiu-jitsu guy or even judo guy, and if I'm not exploring what they do, I'm going to get my butt handed to me. So I've got to look. Again, we're in football. Think of like a football game, and this would be cheating, but you had access to their playbook. Now, are you going to not look at that playbook? If you can have like a foresight onto what might come, you're going to look at it. You need to look at it. That's why they make training camps so secretive, because there's always going to be prying eyes. Right now, my wife, I don't know if you've seen it, but she's in the middle of producing a movie with Mark Gordon, who produced Saving Private Ryan with Steven Spielberg. And they're talking about her father's time with the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if you know this story or not, if you got to look at it, but he was the secret weapon. They were sneaking Dan Inosanto into the Dallas Cowboy training camp in the mid 70s, before Dallas became America's team, and he was teaching them how to use martial arts on the field, and they got to the Super Bowl and they won it. And
Wow.
almost everyone that we've talked to, Randy White, Bob Ward, the conditioning coach, you got Mike Ditka, the assistant coach back then, Roger Staubach. A lot of players, and they're all saying he was that ingredient. He was the spice in the new recipe that they put that got them there. So you got to look at different things, and if you just look at what you do and what nobody else does, you're going to be a big fish in a little pond.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've been like trying to, cause my thing is trying to like teach people to be more open-minded. Cause there's a lot. Let's say you know how like artists like Japanese or people who draws, um they only study their craft, right? But they never study other like skill set. That's what I want to like tell them, that you need other skill set to be able to become more successful, like selling or marketing, whatever that is, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, to be you have to have like you have to be eclectic to things, right? That's why I've been trying to tell people. And thank you so much for telling me the story about that. I remember I was watching one of your video, right? And I was learning how to because you also incorporate the form. You said that Bruce Lee. I remember you told me like Bruce Lee did take out the form, but you put it in the form again. You still do the form, right? You put
Yeah.
it.
All right. Think of this. All right. That it's actually a great question because they're like, oh, Bruce Lee was anti-form. Later he said you don't need form. He felt. But think of this. All right. Let's just say you don't need the alphabet. All right, anymore, or you're past like practicing how to write your alphabet. Okay, but then you have a new student and you're going write, and they're like, well, write what? Write that. I mean, you have to teach. They have to have substance. I don't know if that's a great analogy or not, but I mean, people need it. Like the way Dan Inosanto talks about Bruce Lee is he was the best forms man he ever met. He understood it. That's in him. You can't take it out of him. I don't know if you understand what I mean, but once it's in you, it's in you. It's like a Dick and Jane book. I could go, hey man, I got this awesome book. I want you to read it. It's Dick and Jane. And you're like, what? And you're like, see Dick, run, Dick, see Spot, and you're like, kind of past this. But there's a time where that was like some compelling reading, maybe to a 4-year-old, right? But they needed to chew on that before they could get to War and Peace. If I gave that to my 4-year-old, he'd be like, what? I can't read this. So there's a time where you need form, and you need, you know after you get that down, then maybe you could divorce yourself from it and say, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm kind of past that. But there's a lot of lessons within it, and for those who don't use it, they're going to lose. I used to teach some Aikido people, and I love Aikido. I'm not putting it down, and not even at all putting it down. I think it's an amazing art. But they were like, in their mind, they wanted to be like Morai Yeshiba. I don't know if you know Yeshiba is the founder of Aikido, but he's written books like Abundant Peace, or there are books written about him, and it talks about not fighting and becoming this higher thing, but they want to be combat effective without ever tasting what it's like to be under fire. And I'm like, because they read Abundant Peace, and Morai Shiba was anti-fighting. But what they don't understand, if you look at the history of Morai Shiba, he was a little ass kicker. He fought a lot when he was young. He was a small man. He was picked on. And he went to blows a lot. And then he outgrew that and said, I don't need this anymore. But he tasted it and he knew what it was like. And you've got to have that to grow.
Okay, thank you. And I was thinking about, because every time I remember, have you heard of the system of Hanfut system?
No, what's the name of it? Fun foot?
Hanfut system.
Oh,
It's
Hunfoot. No, I'm not.
it's a form of it's a combination of Hungar and Futgar, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but it have the form, they're based on left hand style, but they incorporated the animal system. But I noticed that most of the people, like I said, I believe that I agree with what you said, that form are important. But the thing is, most schools only teach you the form, but they don't teach you how to incorporate the technique, right? Because I was looking on the video of Danny Santo, where he was like, "How come we don't teach you like how Bruce tell you? How come you don't teach how to use the technique instead of doing the form?"
Right. No, yeah, I agree. A lot of schools don't. I really truly think a lot of the people who are teaching don't understand what they're doing. They're just doing it kind of like almost as if it's just dance to them without a practical knowledge. Uh, one of my best lessons with Inosanto was I was in Chicago. He was there for a seminar. he said, "Hey, I'm going to go to this." I think we went to a Choi Foot school, and no, it wasn't Choi Foot. God, I forgot which system we went to look at, but I remember I was just getting close with him back then. I was still young, so I drove him over there, and we went in and we sat down, and we watched. It had to be over 3 hours of class, and he just sat and he watched, and this man did his thing, and I was young and stupid. I'm going to say it right now, and I was kind of looking at it, going, "God, this guy's not that great," and I was like, you know, and I just knew it in the level Inosanto was at, and I'm thinking, this guy's here and Inosanto's there. Why are we doing this? And my father-in-law just sat there and watched and watched and watched. And at the end of the class, the man came up. He was so excited that Dan Inosanto was there watching his class, and he shook. And he's like, "Wow, that was amazing." And he's like, "Ron, wasn't that great? That was awesome." And I'm like going, "Oh yeah, that was great." And I'm trying to be pleasant, I'm trying to be nice, but in my mind, I'm thinking, this guy is horrible. And when we left there, I kind of like, I could kind of speak my opinion sometimes way too much. And I said, "God, I wasn't that impressed. You were just being nice." And he goes, "Let me show you something." And he started to show me some technique. And he goes, "That's what that guy was doing. That's what I seen, what he had going on in there." And it was a big lesson to me, because I thought what I was looking at, I was almost like not looking at it anymore, because I just thought, I'm not going to learn anything from this. But he was sitting there chewing on it and deciphering everything that this man was doing. And he pulled out some gems out of there, and he showed me what the man was showing. And I remember my father-in-law saying, regardless if he knew what he was doing or not, he was doing it. And he seen something that gave my father-in-law value, so my father-in-law gave him his time. And the one thing, if you knew who Dan Inosanto is, time is everything to him. He's on a race with time. He's like, we're all getting older. I don't want to waste my time. If the system's good, I'm going to watch. I'm going to spend my time. But he will give it a fair, honest look. He does it with every system. He's doing some systems now. Some people have questioned me about, and I'm not going to name the systems because I think they're good things. I don't want to put anybody down. But some people go, "Ron, why is Dan Inosanto doing that? That's the system's blah," and he will research. If he sees one thing in there that he thinks might be good, he's going to research that whole thing, because if he gets two things, he goes, "That's mine. That I'll walk away." Does he like everything in every system? No. Does he think like systems have? I think every system has something of value, even if they're doing it wrong. They're teaching you how not to do it. Then, in your eyes, and it's all subjective. If you and I were in a room and we're working out, I might like certain things and you're going to like them. It doesn't mean you're right or I'm wrong. If I have 100-pound woman in my class and she's going against a 250-pound man, and I tell her, "I want you to pick this guy up and put him over your head and throw him to the ground," that's not feasible for her. It might be for him because he's 250, she's 100 pounds. But if I looked at that 100-pound woman, I said, "I want you to jump up and do like a 320 or a 480, she might be able to spin and kick like that." And I go to that guy, "You do it." And he's like, "I could barely kick, 90 degrees. So, everything is subjective to your personality, to your physical structure, to just your likes, and you got to be able to like pick and choose what's right for you. It's martial arts. And it's people go, "Martial, what's martial?" It's like military. Arts, what art? Art's self-expression. We could all go and try to copy a Monet painting, but we're not going to get $1 million for it. We're just doing an imitation of that thing. We got to make the art our own. So like you were saying, earlier about, being open-minded. If you took in Picasso, Monet, Toulouse-Lautrec, Renoir, Dali, and if you had a way of mashing and melding it, you might become the next Elvis Presley or the next Led Zeppelin of music, or you might become the next Bruce Lee or Anderson Silva of martial arts. You just got to be able to put the game together your way, do it your way. And the number one thing you got to know is people are going to put you down for it, no matter what it is. You know, you're always going to make somebody unsatisfied with what you're doing, but you got to do what's right for you. You know, just
Right.
do your thing.
Right. Thank you so much. It's how I believe that, it's perception. It's how